My name's Anastasia. I live in Milwaukee, originally from the Green Bay area, Wisconsin, born and raised. I think I can't necessarily talk about cash advances without what was going on around it. Really bad drug addiction issues at the time. If you've ever heard of like the Galaxy Gas trend on TikTok, I got addicted to that. And that's where the cash advance apps kind of came in. And when you have that sort of addiction, there is really nothing that your body wants more than to satisfy that by any means, even if it's shooting yourself in the foot. And I didn't even know these things existed until I saw a commercial for them. I think it was Chime that offered like the first commercial where it's like you can borrow like $100 and pay it back on your next check. And it's like, great. I can easily get $100 for drugs, right?
See, that's the downside of cash advances. Like, you can literally use it for anything.
Right. And even though the terms and conditions and a lot of them say you're not allowed to use it for like substances and stuff like that, nobody's checking. As soon as the check clears into your bank account, it's your money.
So let's go back a little bit. So what did your finances look like before this started? Were you living paycheck to paycheck? Did you have like a savings account?
I'd been living pretty paycheck to paycheck for a while. Before I had the nitrous oxide addiction, I was a rabid alcoholic. So substance abuse issues have been following me since like 2018 and have always been like all encompassing around this. So it had always been paycheck to paycheck. Before that, never really had much savings. Credit didn't look very good at all because a lot of cards are maxed out and stuff like that.
But I would say like the bad credit didn't influence using the cash advances, right? Because it was more like you saw the ad and were like, oh, this is a way to get easy money type of a thing versus like going that route because of your bad credit, if that makes sense.
I think it's a little bit of both because before I even knew what a cash advance was, I had a Capital One open and like have like a credit card. And it's like once I got to the point where those stopped being as available because, being maxed out to the limit, there's no more available credit anywhere else. These apps don't do a credit check.
It's very good for that.
Yeah.
You can use them like in any circumstance pretty much. Yeah. Okay, so that's how you started with the cash advance. Now, what happened? Like, did you get stuck in a cycle?
For the first month or two, I was really only using Earnin because with Chime, I didn't feel very comfortable having my direct deposit going towards there. So I was like, oh, I don't want to go with this one. Of course, I was served an ad for Earnin next because I'd looked up Chime, and they require even less verification, and they don't even require a deposit. They just require you to enable always-on GPS access, and in some cases, an employer email, and they'll give you like $100 to $200 in like 20 minutes.
Is that what happened? Like when you first started using it, did it give you like a higher amount?
I think it started with 150.
Okay. Usually it's like in the 25 to 50 range.
It really depends on the app because after about a month or two, I just went into the app store on my phone and searched cash advance apps and just started downloading them all.
Yeah, somebody else I interviewed did the same thing. So
Yeah.
you're not alone with that. Yeah. It gets like crazy. Is there a reason why you downloaded so many? Like, was the first one not enough or like not giving you as much as you needed? Or like how did that kind of spiral into downloading more?
Yeah, I think it has to do with the fact that after repayment, there's not that much money left. So it's like, oh, I did actually need that extra $200 that Earnin just took out. What am I going to do about it? Oh, there's Grid. They're willing to give me 50. Well, that'll at least cover part of it. And it goes on and on until at one point, I actually ended up charging more than I had made in my check in cash advances. Yeah.
How did you handle that?
I did my first revocation of automatic clearinghouse authorization.
How did you learn how to do that? Like, how did you know?
The time I didn't. I was looking up. This was MoneyLion during New Year of 2024 to 2025. They were doing a promo like every week where they would give like an extra $50 or $100, and like a cash advance that started out at like $200 eventually went up to $450. So that was the largest cash advance that I ever had outstanding, and that was the one that bounced because my paycheck for like that pay period was only like $1,000, and it went to Dave, Earnin, Grid, so many of them.
How did you know which apps to use? Like, did you just try all of them and then just use the ones that gave you the money, or?
Yeah, I literally just tried all of them and just used whatever approved me. I think there was a couple, like Vancy did not approve me. Credit Ninja did not approve me, though I did find out later they were a loan operator and not a cash advance app. Grant, one that's talked about a lot, didn't approve me. I don't think it's even available in my state. But
How many
yeah,
were you using at one time, would you say?
I think I was using like 12 one time.
That's a lot.
Yeah, in hindsight, I didn't even know there were that many
Yeah.
to begin with. Like,
I know. There's like so many in the App Store too. It's like super easy. You just download all of them and be like, lots of money.
oh yeah, until your next check is $0. And then it
Exactly.
feels like you have to take out the cash advance just to have access to your money.
Yeah, and that's how you get trapped.
Yeah.
So you had MoneyLion and it was $400 and then it bounced. So how did you figure out how to revoke the access from there?
I looked up their terms
We
and
offer instant
conditions,
advance on
and
non-recourse
in their
basis.
terms and
Consequently, we
conditions, it
warranty you that we
said
have no
if you want
contractual
to
or legal
revoke
commitment against
access
your
at any
outstanding instant advance
time,
balances, and we will
we
not
do
engage in
not
debt
have a
collection
right to
activities.
collect.
Place
You
the
can
amount
just
advanced
call
with or
this
sell to third party,
hotline
or
number
make any
and you
reports to
can
credit
revoke
reporting agencies.
authorization.
Folks saying that they
So
don't
I
use debt
did,
collectors
and
and they won't
crossed my
report you to credit.
fingers that it actually worked. And it's been like 8 months since then, and they still haven't made a charge.
Yeah, well, that's good. It must have worked. See, because most people don't go in and think to like read through the terms of service and stuff. And so they kind of like stay trapped in that cycle of feeling like they have to repay. And like a lot of people think it goes to like the credit bureaus or collections or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was good that you took the time to read through everything and then figure out how to legally stop it.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, I kept using other cash advance apps until like only a couple months ago.
Okay, tell us about that.
Yeah, because part of it was I didn't know I could revoke on all of them.
Okay.
I thought I could only revoke on the one. And part of it was also, needing money to meet bills and still having that drug addiction looming in the background.
Have you gotten out of the cycle, or are you still working on it now?
I
Any
have
further
gotten
funds
out
from
of
my
the
account
cycle.
at your bank's name via
I sent
ACH. Effective immediately,
revocation
please
emails
cancel any pending or
around
scheduled
April
debits.
to
I request
most
written confirmation
cash
that this
advance-
request has been
or
received
actually
and
all the cash
processed.
advance
Thank you.
apps
We're
I've
going to
been
take a
using,
screenshot of what
and the only one that had issues was Dave.
Yeah, Dave is a little bit tricky with that one, so I've heard.
I did not end up revoking technically, but I did technically get $218 from them.
Do you want to talk about how it happened?
Yeah, my name is in the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau as filing a legal complaint against them for consumer protection, and I threatened to join the class action that is currently going on against Dave, because legally, if they're a loan servicer, they can't be calling themselves a cash advance. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, though, just shut the case down immediately. They were like, oh, you have an outstanding balance, we're not doing this. Not too long after they reached out, after I'd sent them an email saying, well, I'm just going to join the class action then, have fun. They sent an email back and were like, well, as a one-time courtesy to you and you only, we're going to just give you the money. I haven't heard of that happening to a lot of people, but I took that as an out. I immediately closed the account and haven't touched it since.
So that was good. Like, you were good to advocate for yourself on that one and get your money back.
Yeah, I mean, with the amount of fees, it's like $15, $20 a time. You take a cash advance from them, and doing that well over a year. It's not like I made any money on it.
When you used all of the apps, Did you get the express fee or did you like use just the standard?
I use the express fee.
So that's like adding up on top of subscription fees and stuff. Now you have the express fee on top of that.
Yep, which for a lot of them, a lot. I think Earnin's up to $6 for their express fee now. Yeah, they had to get rid of their tipping system recently, which I never...
That definitely gives some context. So you revoked ACH access from everything? So are you like in the clear now, or do you still use advances, or what does it look like now for you?
I do still use one through Cash App. They recently approved something or other through there. Not happy about that.
Okay, so are you like trying to not use them anymore, or do you think?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm trying to break away from it, and it's one of those things where when it's come time to repay, it's like I can pay the balance, but then I need to fill up my gas tank. I need to buy groceries.
do you have a plan to like get out of that cycle?
At the current moment, the only plan I have is wait for a paycheck where I have enough money for that and try to take smaller amounts if I need to take anything.
That makes sense. Would you, going back, what would you have done differently to like try to avoid the cycle? And do you have advice for anyone who might be like in your position where they're starting to take out like multiple cash advances? Like, what would you tell them to kind of avoid that, getting trapped like that?
I would just say never to start with them in the first place. But if you are caught in it, revoke as soon as possible. Like a lot of people, and I'm pretty active in r/cash advance apps. Like a lot of people think they can like pay it back, and I get the impetus to want to, but there's no getting out of that hole once you've gotten so many of them.
How do you think it's safe to use like one at a time? Like, do you think there's a specific number that would be safer to kind of avoid that from happening? Or do you think just like stay away from all of them is best?
I mean, as somebody who uses one, I don't know. It kind of just feels like at the time it was like the extra amount of money, but now it feels like I'm paying 5% on a principal amount every time I need to access my pay. It doesn't feel like it's worth it. It feels like I'm paying a bank a fee to access money that I'm being paid.
That makes so much sense. So is that like overall, would you say like your view on cash advances is like more negative?
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty negative.
It's hard. Like it can totally like ruin your finances. Totally agree with you on that it has like a lot of downsides to it.
Yeah, just absolutely totaled my finances.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you're starting to get out of it, you know? Like you revoked a lot of access from like a lot of the apps and now you have one.
The unfortunate thing is they never stop texting. Some of them will never stop texting. Like Bright and Albert will never stop texting you. They will send you a message at least once a week saying, hey, you have a balance with us. This isn't a collection notice, but we know you owe us money.
Gosh, that's so pain. Do they all like message you constantly?
Not every app does that, but like those two specifically do.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. Have you tried like blocking them?
Yeah. Every time I get the number, I report it as spam and delete it, and they just change the number.
Oh my gosh, that's actually crazy though.
Bright especially will change the number every time to do it.
Which one is it? Bright?
Bright, yeah.
Bright one. I just did a video on them, like reviewing them. So that's really good to know that they do that.
Yeah, they do that. They also have one of the higher end subscription fees. When I was using it, it was $9 a month on top of a $4 express fee. And they usually only give like $50 to $60 for a cash advance.
So that's like a huge chunk of it just taken out in fees.
Yeah, like a third of it is just fees and subscription.
Yeah, when you use the apps, like the first time you took out an advance, did they all give you high amounts, or were there some that were just like super low?
Earnin doesn't have any subscription to it. Dave has a $1 subscription. Like both of those have pretty high fees that they make you take out. Like I know Dave makes you take out like up to $12 of fees for like an $150 advance. Empower, now Tilt, I keep forgetting that they changed the name. They charge somewhere in the neighborhood of like $10 to $12 for a subscription, though I think they were better on the express fees. It's been a while since I've used them. They were one I didn't actually end up revoking. I ended up repaying, closing my account, and they had a hard limit on the amount of times you could open and close an account in a year, which ended up saving me in a way because I kind of ended up paying them back and then cutting myself off from ever using them again.
Yeah,
Which
so
is,
now you got another advance.
yeah, I'm like barred from taking out another advance until 2026, and it's like, that's been a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, there you go. So how long did it take from you to like start using it, the advances, like where it was out of control? Like, was it a short period of time or did it take several months for that to happen?
I'd say about 2 months.
That is not a lot of time.
No, it was like within 4 pay periods, it was out of control.
Yeah, because like a lot of people will be like, well, you just got to watch like how much you take out. Like these apps will only give you a low amount at first. And like it takes a lot of time to build it up. But it sounds they were giving you higher amounts like from the very beginning.
Yeah, they all use some form of played connection in order to connect to your bank account, see what your monthly transaction history is. And if you have like certain income thresholds, that's how they determine how much to give you. So like at least with my income from working, it's enough that they were like, oh, you're probably going to be able to repay this. Like we can give you like $100 and we could take the risk.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Do you have any like comments or anything else you want to say about the cash advances? Anything you want to tell people who might be where you are?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I guess I'd just reiterate it's better to never start than it is to try and get out of it. I mean, it's not impossible to get out of, but it's better never to even try. I hate knowing that I know that these things exist, right?
Yeah, because it's like addictive too.
It is. And I mean, some of these literally
sign up for
games,
Super Plus,
like,
tap on games, pick a game, and start playing. Earn credits as you level up.
And Clover. I always forget about Clover. Yeah, so many of them have games where they try to make you earn tokens to like get cash advances. And it's like you have to waste time during the day just to get an amount of money. Like, isn't that just a job?
That is true. That is a good perspective to have on that. Totally get your perspective on that. And I agree with a lot of what you're saying as well.
My name's Heather. I'm from Richmond, Virginia. I work for CarMax as a sales consultant remotely, and I got stuck in the cash advance loop. Then I lost my job due to COVID, and I kind of got into a really crappy financial situation due to that. I was going to get evicted from my apartment. I just needed to dig myself out of the hole that I was in. Didn't really meet my goals by doing that and kind of ended up digging myself further into a hole.
Okay, I want to like know more about how you kind of got there.
Yeah.
So finance wise, like before you started using the apps, what was like your main motivator for using it? Was it because you had like bad credit, so you didn't want to use other means?
It didn't work for 3.5 years. CarMax is my first job since then. So I started doing those cash advances to kind of help get ahead of bills and stay on top of them. I'm trying to get out of the loop, and I only take large advances from 2 companies at this point, and I do pay them back prior to my direct deposit hitting every week. So when I lost my job, it kind of coincided with a pretty bad mental health episode, and I ended up going to rehab for alcohol addiction, and in the meantime had over $20,000 worth of credit card debt I had acquired during my mental health crisis. I didn't really have the option to borrow or take out a traditional loan. I couldn't afford my rent. Got some help from some family, but I don't really have a lot of family. My mom passed away when I was younger. I'm not super close with my dad, and I don't have extended family really to count on. I was really grasping at straws, and I had actually taken out a loan against my 401k before getting into the cash advance cycle. Just kind of, I ended up getting a loan from a friend to help me out to where I am able to get to where I'm at now and kind of start the process of getting out of that cycle, but it's still rough.
How did you like come across the apps in the beginning? Like
Targeted ads. targeted
wow.
Instagram ads, targeted Facebook ads, because I was looking to get like a loan. I was looking for like bad credit loans. And then I started getting targeted ads for things like Dave, for Clio, for Earnin, MoneyLion, all of them. And then even some that I've just ignored because at that point I was just so far and I was like, I can't add another.
Too many.
Yeah.
So which ones did you use, like, initially?
I am still using Clio and Dave. I did Earnin and I did an ACH revoke on that. I have not gotten current with them, but I had no other option. And then I have used Grant, Possible, Klarna I've tried to use, but I haven't been able, the points don't log to my account or something. So Klarna, I just ignore. Albert, I used once or twice, but I didn't really. And Bridget. Bridget has never approved me for more than $50 at a time. Dave always varies on how much it depends on if I automatically pay it or if they manually take it out, but usually they give me the 500. I don't have direct deposit set up to any of them at this point just because I want to be able to control whether I pay, when I pay, and have a little bit more security with it.
When you first got approved, did you have direct deposits or was it, like, never set up?
I've never had. I actually no, I did have it with Earnin, and then I automatically took it away. I felt really uneasy about it.
Yeah, that's really interesting though because a lot of these apps, they say you have to have direct deposits. So that's really
Yeah.
interesting they approved you without them.
I mean, I have direct deposit to my bank account, but not linked to the app directly. A lot of them, if you link direct deposit directly through and get paid directly through the app,
Yeah.
they'll increase your allowances, I
Okay,
guess.
got you. So how long did it take you to go from, like, the minimum amount you were getting to, like, the $500?
With Dave, probably within a month or two.
Okay, so not long at all.
No, it was pretty easy. I was actually shocked at how
Yeah.
fast they had approved.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing from everybody too, and it's surprising me as well because 'cause I'm
Yeah.
like, usually it's supposed to take, like, months to get there, you know?
Yeah, and with Bridget, I've been using it for probably 6 months at this point, and it's still just $50. Nothing has changed. I pay every single one, even before it's due, and they just still won't budge. But others, they're just random with how much they'll approve you, it seems
Yeah,
like.
it does seem like that. Okay, so when you started using the apps, how did you go from, like, starting to take money out to, like, getting trapped?
The first time it happened was really because of Dave. I had budgeted. I was like, okay, I'm going to pay this month back and I'll be able to get approved for this much to pay my rent. And
Right.
then the following week or the following pay cycle, I'm good. I had it kind of worked out to spread across a few different pay periods to be able to get current. And Dave, instead of approving me for the usual 500 that they gave me, only approved me for like
Oh,
175.
no.
So I was short until Dave was able to started approving me for more again. And I got stuck in that trap again. And I had to download other apps to kind of get more pay rent. So
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, did that affect, like, your ability to pay bills and stuff, or were you, like, borrowing from so many different things that it kinda, like, balanced out, or
I
what?
ended up having to borrow from so many different things that it balanced out temporarily, but then just put me into a little bit more of a hole. I'm still kind of working my way out of it, almost there. That's a part of why I was very excited to do this because I think people should be aware also of what they're getting
Yeah, that's
into.
part of what we're doing this for too, is just to, like,
Yeah.
spread awareness and make sure people are using it without getting trapped and, like, hearing from you guys how you're getting out of the cycle. So do you wanna talk about, like, how you're working on getting out of that?
Borrow the least amount possible and then pay it back as soon as you can. That's what I've done with a lot of the smaller apps. The ACH revoke was my last ditch. I had no other option to do with Earnin. And I do intend to like clear that out at some point eventually, but I have to get out of this hole first. And it was the largest amount that I had owed. I knew I wasn't going to get approved for the same amount. And if I wasn't going to get approved for the same amount, I wasn't going to be able to make bills. I personally kind of wish I had never fallen into the trap, or maybe just used it a bit more responsibly when I first started to do it. But now if I do have to use them, I do just take this least amount possible out, pay it back as soon as I can, and don't count my chickens before they're hatched, because there's no guarantee I'm going to get the same approval back.
That is true. I'm really glad you shared that because I don't even think about that. Like, if they're approving you for a consistent amount and then all of a sudden it's like a lower amount,
It
that's
really screwed me. If you get dependent on it, there will be a time where you can no longer depend on it.
yeah. Did you use the express fees at all or was it?
I really try not to, but I have in a pinch. Usually I try to request it a few days ahead of knowing I'll really need it.
Yeah.
That way it'll be in my account on time.
So is there like a moment that you can pinpoint like where exactly in this process like things went wrong and how you would do it differently? So if there was like somebody else starting to get into this cycle, like what should they do to kind of avoid this problem?
Definitely, like I said, don't take out more than what you need. I took out more than what I needed just in case. And then, of course, that in case happened, I spent the money and, like I said, didn't get those same approvals that I was expecting back. Then was unable because I didn't prepare accordingly to make my bills that week or that month. Then I got stuck in that loop. If you're just starting off, do everything you can to make sure you don't get dependent on it. Make sure you have a plan set to pay it back. Don't count on those same approvals. Don't, like I said, don't count your chickens before they're hatched because they will change. Eventually, they will change.
Do you have like any cash advances you would recommend at all? Or do you think like you would just try to avoid them at all costs?
Dave has been user friendly and fair in most cases. I still will use Dave from time to time. And I have enjoyed Clio just because it actually has helped my credit score go up because they have a secure card through it. I would probably start with Clio just because they only advance you, I think, 250 at a time. There are certain things that you can do to get a guaranteed boost on your next advance. I believe you can defer the payment or reschedule it. It'll work with you. I haven't had to do that yet, but I've done some research and they seem to be a little bit more educational based rather than just let us give you money and then take these predatory fees.
Yeah, I tend to like Clio out of all of them. Like that's the one I would use.
I wish I had found first, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Which one did you start with first? I forget which.
It was Albert, I think. It was Albert, or actually, I think Clio back in the day. You may have had to do GPS location. I know Clio a long time ago before COVID was a cash advance app that I had tried and couldn't use for some reason.
Do you think if you had stuck with just like one app, it would have helped?
Yeah, and that's why I'm slowly getting rid of, because if I can just have one for emergency purposes, then I'm good.
Yeah, that's good. And then I like what you said about like revoking the ACH access and then going back in later when you have the money at some point to like repay it. There's a lot of controversy, I think, with that because like people are like, oh, it's not ethically correct to just like evoke authorization. But I think a lot of people don't know that you can still go back in and repay it when you actually have the money.
Exactly. And sometimes, unfortunately, you have to make ends meet to put a roof over your head and food on the table. And you don't want to make that choice. Like, I don't feel good about it. It's not something that I would recommend doing by any means. It comes down to, my dog and I in a cardboard box outside, or me paying this company back that at the end of the day, it's a drop in the bucket for them.
Right.
I'm gonna focus on meeting my needs, and then I will make good with them when I can.
That's a good perspective to have. Is there anything that you want to talk about or like anything you want to say?
Keep your wits about you. Don't get too deep into it. Don't count on it. Don't depend on it, because I really wish I hadn't. Just learn from my mistake of getting dependent on it. That would be my number one advice. Nobody knows your own finances better than yourself. So if you can be disciplined about it, then do what you want to do.
I was actually selected to pilot Cash App's borrow feature before they rolled it out. And I just got a random email and it was like, hey, we want you to try out this thing that we're working on. Come and give it a shot. So I went and looked at it. I've never really been approved to get any kind of money or loan or anything like that. So I found this to be kind of interesting. So at first, you could borrow $20. That was the highest amount it would go at first. So I did it. I took it. You have 4 weeks to pay it back. I paid it off sooner than that because it was just $20. Well, then they increased it. It went up to like 25. And it was small increments at first until later on. So I've never been late on a payment. And now my borrow allowance is up to 1,000.
Wow. That's
Now,
amazing.
it is, but it's kind of like a love and hate thing,
Yeah.
because sure, there's times where I've really needed the money and I could use it, but it's like, well, I can't guarantee myself that I can pay it all back. So that's why I try to just take like 50 or 100 because I can pay that back fairly easily. Well, recently they also came out with Afterpay. I had never done any of that before. And then just recently, a couple months ago, they were like, hey, you're allowed to have this now. So they started me off at like 150. I had no idea how it worked, but I went to the grocery store. I spent like $30 and then I got an email like, hey, we saw that you spent 30. You can get that money back and pay it back to us later. So, of course, I got into that. So it started off, I think it was under 200 the initial, and now they just raised it the other day to 650. And it's like every time I make multiple payments without taking anything out, I feel like they are wanting me to, so they increase my limit. So I can see how it's very easy for people to get stuck in this cycle.
Right. It sounds like the smart thing by taking out less than they're actually giving you.
Yeah, but I have done more. So right now, I'm just working on paying back everything and getting it taken care of and just leaving it for like strict emergency. But it's hard. The interest isn't much. They did raise it recently to 7.5%, but it used to be 5%. 7.5 still isn't bad, because if you take out $100, it's $7.50. So that's not awful. And then I don't know if this was just for me or if they did it to other people, but now you're allowed to pay it back in 6 weeks instead of 4. So you can break it down. And they also have an option, which I think is pretty smart. I don't do it because I prefer just to pay it off in like one lump sum. You can pay a little bit each week. So after 4 or 6 weeks, whenever you're going to pay it off, you're not hit with that lump sum because you've been paying it off a few weeks prior. So that's helpful, I think. But I can definitely see how people get stuck in this circle and it's hard to get out.
Can you talk about how you kind of manage the payments to avoid getting into the cycle, just for people who might be like starting to use these apps?
Well, I always put in my calendar when it needs to be paid. It's due on Friday. I always try to pay it off a day early. I've never been late. They will send you emails like 2 weeks prior, a week prior, and then like that week they'll send you, this Friday you're due. So I just try to follow that. And I just try to be smart about it. And I've heard that these places don't report on your credit because they're not like a modern financial institution. But I don't want to take the risk. And plus, I don't want to throw away something that has been so beneficial and so helpful to me at certain times.
So let's kind of segue into that. So when you first started using these apps, like how did you come across? So were you using Cash App already? And like what made you want to use the cash advance apps?
I was using Cash App just for like odd end jobs here and there. I used to clean houses. Customers would pay me that way. And I almost wonder if Cash App saw that because I wasn't getting direct deposit. I wasn't, really using my Cash App card. I always transferred the money to my bank almost immediately.
Okay, so this was tied to your retail job then.
No, I never did direct deposit.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah. So anything I did on the side, I usually had direct deposit set up to my bank. So I like to handle it that way because Cash App, I just felt like it was between friends and family, whatever. I was really excited when they gave me the option to, especially because they made it seem like it was this whole new thing and I was selected to try it out. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I also thought, like, well, if I don't use it, even this one time, they're going to take it from me and I'm not going to have the option to use it in the future. So it was kind of mostly just out of curiosity.
So in terms of like finances, was there like, were you living paycheck to paycheck at that time, or did that influence your decision to use the app, or not so much?
Back then, no, not necessarily. I got paid weekly from my job. Everything, this was right after the pandemic. So everything was just a little bit wild for everyone, I think. And, now that I say that, I wonder if that was another reason why they brought it out too, because they knew people were probably, struggling a little bit. So I wouldn't say I was living paycheck to paycheck, but I definitely, I spend more than I should, and I'm not the best at finances or saving money. Yeah, it was mostly just out of curiosity that I wanted to try it.
That's so interesting. Like everyone that I've interviewed so far has had a really unique reason for like starting to use the advances. And it's like, it's always an answer I'm not expecting. Because normally I think it's like because people have bad credit, because that's what they advertise it for, And a lot of people just use it out of curiosity or because there's like some type of emergency or something and they just need the money quick.
I could definitely see if they started me off with a big limit, say $500. I could see how, if I had an emergency, that would be so helpful. Say you had a sick animal and you had to take him to the vet. It's not that easy to get a payment plan these days for anything. Loans are difficult, not to mention the interest rate on those. And, plus like the credit check. And I think a lot of people these days don't have good credit. I don't have good credit. I've never had a credit card, but I've had issues in my past with like a guardian using my name and whatnot on utilities and stuff and then defaulting. So I took the hit for that. So I was pleasantly surprised when I had the option to do it. And that's another reason why I try so hard not to default. And I'm never late with my payments. I've never missed one because I don't want to, bite the hand that feeds me per se if I need it.
So how long did it take you from like taking out the first advance when it was like $20 or whatever you said to increase to like the $1,000 limit?
It was like a week from 20 to 25 and then it jumped up to 50 like a week or two later. That was so long ago and like in the beginning of the whole thing. It's kind of hard to remember exactly, but I do remember it took over a year to get from 350 to 500. Like it was totally random. And people online will say it's because you didn't have direct deposit or you didn't really use your Cash App. And it's like, I didn't need direct deposit to even begin. So I don't know how they go about dictating and deciding, okay, person A can have their increase now, person B needs to sit for another month. So I wonder how they do that on their end.
Were you still using it consistently throughout that year when there was like that?
Not so much. Not so much. I had quit cleaning, so I was no longer getting the money in, randomly for that. But, if I'm going out to the bar with a friend, I'd send them $20 here or there, or whatever. So it was very small purchases and very small amounts coming in and going out. I did have my stimulus check go in through Cash App. So I wonder if that, and that was before they came out with the option to do borrow. So I wonder if that played a part too. But It almost seems like every time I pay lately, they increase my limit, especially on the afterpay. Like just the other day, they raised it. So it's very sporadic and it's not guaranteed and you just don't know. It's like completely random and it's almost like a game where like you just keep playing because you want to win and by winning you're getting the increased amount. You know what I mean? It's kind of exciting in a silly way.
I totally get that. Is Cash App the only advance that you use or do you have other?
Cash App is the only one.
Okay. I wonder if that's like the secret because I feel like a lot of people who get trapped, they're using like 10 to 15 apps at one time.
See, I'm surprised you could even do that many, but if they're not reporting to your credit or any other, way to see who has what where, they're just going to give it to you. And quite frankly, I don't even think they're going to care if you do default because then later on that could be like a lawsuit for them against you. So it's hard to say, but yeah, I've never tried. I've tried signing up for like the afterpay option on Amazon or eBay, and I applied and they were like, "No, you can't use it. Sorry." Probably like my lack of credit. But yeah, Cash App, I don't know if they would have given it to me had I not been chosen to test it, but here I am and I have it.
That's awesome. So, where are you now in terms of like using cash advances?
Well, I'm trying to pay off. I'm trying to pay off and leave it. Although I do think even after I pay it off, I will still take from it here and there because I'm afraid to lose it. I don't want to lose it, especially being at $1,000. It's taken from 2021, like October, to now to have $1,000. And I'm reading online that it goes up even more. And it's like, I'd be perfectly happy and content if they just left me at 1,000, because I don't want to dig myself into the ground any deeper than I am. I'm not worried about what I have owed and what I have to pay back. I've been handling it okay. But now that I heard you say there's people that use multiple, I'm very grateful that I only have this one.
Yeah, it seems like you're doing everything correctly and like making sure you pay back on time and all of that. So that's really good that that's happening. So, yeah, do you have any like specific plan on paying them back or are you just like hoping to pay it off eventually?
Well, I tend to just throw money at it every week or every 2 weeks. Like I do market research online and I bring in pretty decent money each week through that as well as my retail job. So even though like everything is expensive and it's hard, like I try to live within my means and the online work that I do is typically use that just to pay back what I owe. I'm just doing it kind of slowly, but there's times where I'll pay it and I'll borrow 100 right back. There was like a time where I owed $50 times two. I owed $100 and I paid it once. I took it right out immediately and paid the other one. And then I was good for another 2 to 4 weeks until I had to, pay more. So they do give you the option to borrow the money immediately. And I think maybe they shouldn't do that because if I can't afford my payment, but I see that I still have $300 that I can borrow, well, I'm going to borrow from that to pay the loan that is due tomorrow, and I'll worry about that loan in 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, I see how that's like it kind of drags it out longer.
Right. I have read that when and if you are late with a payment, they will make that you can't do that. You can't borrow right away. You will then have to pay back everything that you owe before you can borrow again.
Okay, so it's kind of like you're using the two different features to kind of like balance each other out in a
Kind
way.
of sometimes, yeah. Like when I got my taxes back this year, I just threw that right at it. I paid off everything that I had owed and I started clean again.
It seems like you're pretty smart with like money management and
But
all of
see,
that.
I'm not. I'm not at all. I am just so terrified of having this wonderful option taken from me. And see, another reason why I worry about it vanishing one day is because there is a sub on Reddit called like cash advance apps or something. And there's tons of people lately that are talking about how they're revoking like the privilege for the app to connect to their bank to pull the money out automatically. And there's all these templates that you can use, put in your name, your info, and send to Cash App or Venmo or Dave or Chime or whoever. And it revokes it and they can no longer come after you for the money. And I think that's so wrong because you took out that loan, you agreed to the terms. Like, I understand that you got yourself into a pickle, but no one forced you to. But I do understand though, when times are tough and you have, $500 dangling over your head like a carrot and you could really use it right now, I understand that people are going to bite and they're going to grab it. So I do have, some empathy for them there. But I am concerned now that so many people are doing that option that these apps are going to say, you know what? There's a few bad apples in this bunch. Get rid of it all. We're not doing it anymore. So I worry about that.
Yeah, that is a very good perspective. For sure. Is there like any advice you would give to people about cash advances? Do you think they should like stay away from them?
If you don't need it, you can go a week or two without needing, $100 or whatever. Most people have a job. Don't touch it. Save it for an emergency. Maybe take $25 out here or there, pay it back 2 days later, and your limit will probably increase. And that might be more tempting, but you have to have self-control. Like, no one can hold your hand through this. You're an adult. You can make your own decisions, but definitely do not go to more than one. Like you saying, some people are on his, that still has me like twisted up. That's wild. And I could just understand like the fear that these people feel probably, to know you have something due, a bill to pay and you can't pay it and you don't really know what the outcome is going to be of it. Like it's scary. So I feel for them there, but yeah, my advice is to just be careful and be responsible and stay away from more than one.
That is great advice. Is there anything else you want to say or like talk about?
I've had a few times where I had to pay back and it was like, well, I may be late this time. I may actually be late. And like I'll pay the $100 that I have, but I say I still owe 50. They'll increase my limit. And it's like, oh my gosh, all right, well, let me just borrow from that again and pay it off. So I would advise not to go that route, although that is an option if like, you really need to and you don't want to be late. But don't get comfortable doing that. That's a slippery slope.
Yeah. Have you ever been in a situation where it's like it takes it out of like a large amount out of your paycheck and then you're like don't know how to pay for like rent or bills or whatever?
Fortunately, I have not been in that situation. I've never had a direct withdrawal from my bank account because I always pay it back early. Even if it's a day early, there's been a few times where I've paid it at 7 a.m. and I think it's due at 10 a.m. on the Friday. So I've never been in that situation, fortunately.
Yeah, that's good. You go. I applaud you.
Pretty much, I would say like all my life, I was pretty good with handling the financial stuff. And then things as I got older kind of got into a thing where I got into a relationship and it was like long distance and there was like a lot of like me covering a lot of finances and stuff. So I kind of dug myself into like a credit card fiasco and then so that led in me into kind of like settling into like not like a program where I'm kind of paying things and they're settling my finances and I have like one lump sum payment a month. So that's been in the last couple years actually. And then it kind of led me into these because it seemed like I was always just trying to get by from paycheck to paycheck or whatever. So that kind of led me into recently, which is kind of like using these to get by through paychecks.
So is there a reason why you use cash advances? Like, does it have to do with credit or is it just like the convenience or?
Honestly, I'm like, it's shy and I'm shy and it's like embarrassing. So this is kind of like a way where I could kind of get it without people not really knowing in a sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because we're always curious. We're like, why do people use cash advances? Because they always say like, if you have bad credit, you can use them. But it's like, I don't think that's always the main motivator for people. Like, I think there's a lot of other reasons. So
For me, it's kind of like not putting it out there that maybe I'm in a tough point right now. So it's like it's easy and you can kind of get it to get you by, and no one really worries or stresses or has that any intuition that you might be struggling to a point.
do you have any favorite apps that you used?
Honestly, MoneyLion kind of has been the best for me just because they've given the most. Like, I think since I've always like just took it, paid it back and stuff, I think I'm up to like $250 on there. So they've definitely been the best for me.
Do you use any other ones, or like do you stack them and use multiple ones at once?
Unfortunately, I'm kind of in like this rut now, but
What's the background of how that?
I've always like owned up to what I do. So in a sense, like I'm never gonna like not, if I say I'm gonna pay it back, I'm gonna pay it back. So I've never got into that loop where like, I know you can revoke and things like that. I've learned some more terms about this recently because this is all just kind of still new to me in the last 2 months. And I will never do that because I always want to own up to what I promised that I'm gonna do. And plus I don't want to burn any bridges in a sense. So maybe I'll need to rely on that one day. Maybe when I get it's sorted again and everyone's paid back and I don't need to worry about it. But like I said, maybe one day I just don't want to burn that bridge. So I've always owned up to what I need and do. So it's kind of like once I saw like that I learned about them, it just kind of took me in this path where it's like I need a little bit more this month, and it kind of led into different Google searches and things of that nature and finding out what's out there. So now it's kind of like relying mainly on like 4 or 5 of them, like MoneyLion, Dave, Genie, I think is it. And they give me I think the second most amount is Credit Genie, and then those 3.
Credit Genie is more obscure than the other ones.
Those 3 actually. Let me do a rundown on my phone here.
Wait, can you show us if you have the apps on your phone?
So like I have this, well, let's see here. So it kind of like starts there. That's like my first section. And then I go into all these other ones like Tilt, Clio, Albert. And some of these I haven't been approved for or anything. Or like some of them I don't use because they won't give me like Float Me, Credit Genie, and ATM.com. But like some of these I don't even use. Like for example, like Beam, I don't use True, I don't use Cashly, I don't use Vancy, I don't use Cash Advance, I don't use Gerald, I don't use Grid, I don't use any of them. I've tried, but they just say like we can't allow it for whatever reason.
Are you a freelancer or are you like a W-2 employee?
Just the W-2.
Okay. That's interesting how some of them are like letting you take out in advance and then other ones aren't approving.
Well, some of them I think I bank with Chime, so a lot of them reject Chime for some reason. Like I know Empower, like Earnin doesn't work with Chime, and like there was a couple others that I ran into that don't work with Chime. So I was kind of limited in.
Have you tried Chime MyPay?
I use it. I rely on it a lot, just because I'm stuck in a loophole right now where like as soon as my paycheck hits, it kind of takes it right away. So it's kind of like then I need to get that money back and kind of use it to pay other stuff as well. So I'm kind of in that loop as well. And obviously the goal is to obviously get out of that loop where I'm not so reliant on like things like this where I can just, if I need them, they're there, but it's not like something I have automatically. Like the first thing I do is kind of start reloading just because I need to get the money back in that I just paid out to cover all of them.
But then it like comes out of your paycheck and it's like, no.
It's a nasty loop.
How did you get started with that? Like, how did that start spiraling into that loop?
Just like it kind of, like I said, like the past things where I got kind of into that, paying for everything and then racked up credit card debt and then ended up like I said, working with a company that's taking care. I'm resolving that, and it's just it's a big sum of money that most of my paychecks, and then obviously other expenses in life too. And then kind of my phone broke, and then I need to get like a new phone, and then like, so that's kind of why I kind of got into like spiraling down on those. It's because like I had to buy a new iPhone and I had to get that stuff covered and things like that. So that's kind of why I kind of got reliant on it, like getting these different advances, because between all of them, it could add up where I could just take care of what I needed to, because I couldn't rely on not having a phone.
Was it like a slow process where it was like it started with like a lower amount and then as you kept borrowing it like got bigger, or was it like right off?
Yeah, like MoneyLion for sure. Like I think it was like really low at first, and then now, like I said, they're up to $250 just because I give them the payments back on time, and then they've taken me up to $250 on that one. And it's kind of with Dave too. Like they all started really low, like $25, $35, and most of them have increased, at least doubled.
How long for you to get it to increase?
Probably like MoneyLion, probably like I think I took out 3 different ones, and then it was already up there. And I think Dave, it was just one. It was Dave once, and then they increased it again pretty high. And then Clio was the same way one time, and they took it to like 80. And like Credit Genie was like the same way as well. It was like 25, and then they took it all the way up to 100. So it increased like after one time paying them
Yeah,
back.
that's good.
Yeah.
You have like a savings fund, or are you like living paycheck to paycheck, or what is that?
I mean, more paycheck to paycheck than anything. I do have a 401k that I contribute 7% to, and my employer matches 5%. So I wouldn't say like I have nothing saved, but I mean, like I do have a good stash because I've been with the same company for a long time. So I do have some put away in a 401k, but as far as like the right now, it's more like it's probably just like paycheck to paycheck getting by.
Yeah. In terms of like the cycle that you're in now, do you have plans to get out of it?
I mean, ideally, it's the second I can start getting some, like, there's some things that I'm gonna have that bills that's gonna start going away soon enough, like stuff that I had to catch up on. And then once that does, I can start saving it. And then, like, once I have that saved, I can actually make the payments on them and then not have to worry about immediately. Like, once I get to that point, I won't have to. First thing I get paid is go pay these back and then take it right back out because I needed it. So the goal is like obviously kind of like start putting a little bit aside until where I don't have to go right back into it. They'll be more of a just like really like an emergency, which is always was my intent, but it kind of turned into something else.
Right. I feel like that's a common misconception too, because I feel like when you get into that cycle, a lot of people are like, well, just like stop borrowing. You're like, how would you get in it in the first place? And it's like, there's so many like freak accidents or like things that just happen out of nowhere. And then you're like caught really fast. So it does make a lot of sense. But I'm glad that you have a plan to like get out of it. Are you planning on still using cash advances after, or are you like, I'm done after?
I would definitely, like, I don't think I'm ever going to be like have thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars available to spend on any given day. But like, if there's something like that I would love to do or something like that, like if I want to go do something and I need like $100, I mean, and I can use that to my advantage just to like do it, I'll definitely wouldn't say I'm going to shut them out completely, but I don't want to be reliant on it. You know what I mean, I just know that it's an option, and if I need to take advantage of it, I could, but like not be so reliant on it for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the smart mindset to have. They're a good tool for sure. Would you give anybody like who might be where you were when you were like starting using the cash advances, do you have like any advice to give them, or like something you would do differently now to like try to avoid the cycle? Or do you think it was like worth it? Or
I would say like if it's something you need to do, it's like if you absolutely need it, they could, like, I would say like go for it. But like as far as like if you're just like looking to just to have some extra cash laying around or whatever, like I wouldn't, like if you're just feeling uncomfortable about it, or I wouldn't use the money for like I want to go out with friends for a night, like I'm gonna take out like 4 cash advances to go spend $200-300 to go out with my friends. Like I wouldn't recommend something like that, but like I would really honestly have a plan with them and stick to what you absolutely need. Like if you need something, like, and it's an option for sure, like if you need it to whatever it is to get by for a week or whatever, or get groceries for a couple days till you can get paid, like absolutely for sure go for it. But I also think like if you also have a tight knit family or friends, that like that would be probably a smarter decision if you aren't, like in my case, embarrassed to ask people. But like I think there's better ways you can go about it. But if you absolutely need it, for sure, like I wouldn't say they're good to get by. As far as like, and I would stick to a couple. I wouldn't like go dabbling into like, there's so many out there from just by looking around, and I feel like you can get into a really bad place if you have 15-20 of them, and like just the burden every 2 weeks on your paycheck. Like I mean, it's just too much. And like if you're gonna do it, I would stick to a couple of the better ones and just kind of use those as your mainstay as far as if you're gonna use them.
I think that's really good advice. When you're in the cycle, like does that affect you like emotionally, just seeing like money?
It's just been a lot of stress, and like I would never say like I'm one to like harm myself or anything, but it's definitely been like a mental battle for sure. I mean, it's just been a lot of stress, and trust me, I know it's hard. I mean, with everything nowadays, with like economy, cost of stuff, and everything like that, it's really hard. And definitely I would say it's taken a toll. And until I actually ended up doing one simple Google search, because one day I think it was over like a Saturday night or whatever, I'm just sitting there, it's like, how am I going to get through? And then I just started Google searching things, and I started finding these apps, and I'm like, well, maybe this is an option for me just to help me get by, which they definitely did help me get through that first week. And then it was like, kind of like I said, it just started that bad trend of relying on them too much, more than I would like. So, but it's definitely stressful.
What is like the verdict? Do you think cash advances are like good, bad, like somewhere in the middle? Like what would be your final conclusion from your experience?
I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm thinking they're great if you have some self-control, and I think they can be very bad if you don't. I think there's a place for them in a lot of people's lives, but like I said, if you can't control it, it can be very bad. But like if you can use them as like just like that thing in your corner, then I think they can be very beneficial. And if you can handle them and use the right ones, I think some are better than others, obviously. But if you can just use it as like something you have in your pocket and it helps eliminate stress sometimes, then they can be great. But like I said, if you're coming into like a huge cycle, I think they can be very, very bad for you.
Do you have any cash advances that you've tried that you like don't like at all?
Not really, because like at the end of the day, like they helped me get through. So I don't like really like have any that I hated. But like I do think MoneyLion has been my favorite just because of the simple fact that they haven't hesitated to actually let me take more out if I needed it. So
It sounds like you got really lucky with like the higher amounts. Because I feel like that's not typical. Like most people start in like the $20 range and then it takes them like several months.
So the funny part about that is that Clover one, they won't give me more than $5.
Oh my gosh, really?
So like it's crazy to even think about. Like you can get 200 from one and then $5 from the other one.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And then you have to pay like if you want the express fee on top of like the $5 and then you're like borrowing.
I think that's also the thing that stings the most. When you look back at probably how much you'll pay in fees and transfers and things like that, it probably adds up to a lot if you take them out a lot. So that's also very sickening to think about.
Have you ever tried to like email customer service and like ask them to waive the subscription fees?
No, I've never. I just learned about that. That was a thing actually today that I just researched and saw that was actually a thing because it's in the terms that you can actually get the subscription fee waived.
You should do that.
So for sure, I'm gonna have to contact all these and get that figured out.
I know that's such a pain. You have to email every single one like individually.
And with like AI nowadays, it seems like it's really hard to talk to people nowadays.
Do you use express fees at all, or do you just like do the standard advance?
I use all express. I don't use anything. I just hate waiting for things, honestly. And plus, like, I mean, sometimes you'll get them quicker than others, and it's just unreliable when it comes to that. I'd rather just know I can get it instantly and pay a couple dollars or whatever and get it instantly. At least I know I won't be stressing if it's going to come in by a certain day.
Yeah, that's very true. So would you say like the express fees, it's more just because of like impatience? Like, do you think if you planned it out, you could stick with like the standard?
Yeah, I think I could in a given world where like you're not so reliant. Like I said, as soon as the paycheck hits, you're worried about filling your account up with. Like if you could actually know that like, hey, it's Monday, but I know I'm going to need some money on Thursday or Friday. I'm just going to do the standard because it should be there by that. And then like, you're not so reliant on that. And then I think like when you're in that stage, I think they become a very much more better relationship with them when like it's a Monday. I don't need any money till Friday. I'm just going to do standard. Like you're not so reliant on them and you can do the standard things like that. I think you'll be in a better spot when you can get to that point as well, for sure. And I'm hoping that like one day I'll get that out too.
Have you ever pushed out a date of repayment, or do you always like?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of times where some of them want them back in a week, and if you're taking them out on a payday, you don't get paid for 2 weeks. So sometimes you have to push them out. I mean, I like the ones that honestly that let you do the 2 weeks because that's just way more easier. But yeah, I've definitely had to push some of the 1 week ones back a week, and there hasn't been any there hasn't been any negative things that come out of it as far as like if I can take less or something like that.
That makes sense. So I kind of want to go back to the revoking the ACH access. So that like takes so much integrity to be like, no, I'm gonna pay this. I'm not gonna revoke access. So I really appreciate that mindset. Is there a point when you would ever like revoke it?
Never. Like I said, I've always been that type of person. That's just my personality. Like if there's something I say or do, I'm going to honor what I say or do. So I'm always going to take care of it. My goal is to work out of it, and the reverse end of it, like work harder to get extra money so I can take care of all of them and then not be reliant on them. I'd rather just do the hard work, take care of it that way versus just not paying up to something that I said I would do. So
that's a great mindset to have. So
that's the goal. I just could never do it. I could never do it.
I feel like I'd be the same way for the most part. All right. Is there any other like comments or anything you want to say about cash advances, giving anyone advice on how to use them properly? I feel like we kind of most for that, but anything?
I think I covered everything. I think, like I said, my advice would just kind of get to a point where it's out there and know that you have an option if you do need it. But I would definitely, if you're struggling, don't be going after, like I said, 10 to 20 of them or whatever, and then it just becomes overwhelming. Then I think when it becomes that, like, I'm at a point where it's not that, like, I know I can take care of everything each and then still be okay. But like, I think when the revoking and stuff comes into play, when you just get overwhelmed, there's too many, it's too much, you know what I mean? Then you're kind of fall into that. But like I said, a lot of people do that. I just don't have that mindset, or that's just not my personality to do something like that. So my advice would be, like, just maybe get a couple, know what's out there, what you have, and stay away from, like I said, 10, 20 of them, and you'll have a good relationship kind of with cash advances, because they can be very good if you how to properly budget and plan for them.
What do you think would be the safe number for like how many people should use it?
I honestly, if I could take 2 to 3 of the ones I use, probably like MoneyLion, like I said, Credit Union, like Dave, for example, I think would be my 3 that because they give me the most, and I think they're pretty fair with everything. So I would kind of stick to like 2 or 3 at the most, if you could.
That's some solid, concrete advice for everybody. I couldn't even imagine like 10 to 15 apps at once. That's so much.
I got to, when I first looked at these, and it got to a point where I'm like just Google searching and I'm just downloading, and it got to a point where it's like scary, like how uncaring I was to like give out like all my information pretty much just to get $25 or something like that. So it's kind of crazy what you'll do to kind of make that just to get by or whatever. So I would say, on the side of caution, some apps are definitely not legit and things like that. So I would obviously do your research and find the proper ones out there.
Did you do your research like before you downloaded the apps, or were you just kind of like?
For sure. I definitely was on like Reddit and the Cash Advance subreddit, and kind of like just like reading what people were talking about, and just a lot of reading and seeing and then you kind of start seeing the same apps over and over. So you're like, this is probably good ones because like everybody's talking about them. But like, as far as there's a lot of random ones, like I don't know, like I wouldn't say, like, I don't know anything about them, so this is a knock on them, but like an app called like Rocco, it's like, is this legit? Doesn't sound legit. I mean, like, no one's talking about it too much, but like you see like the MoneyLion constantly, Dave or Bridget, like all the big ones that people are talking about. I was like, these probably are good then.
That makes a lot of sense. So that's good that you like researched it instead of just downloading everything.
I mean, probably downloaded way more than I thought. But like I said, I don't even use half of them, and I got to get rid of most things.
It's like trial and
error.
error.
Not most, but like I got to get rid of a lot. It's like I just don't.
It's just crowding up your phone.
Pretty much. And like if I ever do, I just don't want to see them. Like I said, I want to get on a better position with them and things like that. And like I said, I only have like a couple, 2 or 3 that I could potentially go for.
And that sounds good, because it sounds like you're on the way to like paying it back and getting out of the cycle, and so that's hopeful.
Yeah, trying.
So it is my pleasure to be able to discuss these types of apps, because what got me here was, I was working for other companies, just doing like marketing contracts, and in between contracts, I had to make it. And sometimes there would be like 30 days between contracts, and I had to figure out a way to make it financially. And in between finances, we had to figure it out. And so, which tough times would bring you to have to use those types of apps sometimes. So that's where it is.
So let's get into the cash advances. So can you tell me like what you were doing before you started using them, and kind of like what led into you trying them out and how that went for you?
Before I was using them, I was just doing nothing but working. I think what brought me into them, because I was getting paid weekly when I was working for, in medical sales. And then when I took like a mini in between just to do like marketing contracts, which has the infrequency of the pay, I had to have a way to float still. And those apps got me through just a few weeks in between, where it was like, oh, you have to wait on a check, and transitioning to the marketing business, getting ready to get up on my feet. And it was we're basically like a bridge, a go between from me having the full time employment into me being self employed.
That's awesome. So it
Yeah.
sounds like you're using it as like a tool to kind of
Mhm.
like bridge the gap.
Yeah.
Do you have like a favorite cash advance app, or how did you figure out which one to start using? How did you even like know they were a thing?
I figured out how to use them online. I was on Reddit looking up, and then on Google, just Googling like what type of apps there were out there. Some of my favorites were Earnin, Albert, and Dave. I liked a little bit, just a little bit. But I would say Earnin probably is my favorite one out of them all.
Okay. Is
And
there a reason why?
just because you pretty much continuously have access to it. They're pretty frequent with like you can use it every pretty much like Thursday or Friday type of thing, and then pay it back quickly, and then they let you borrow again if you need to, and then they will basically save you if you get into a space where you're like under a certain dollar amount. They will forward some money to your bank just to make sure you're still good floating, and then they will get you back, into good standing. So I absolutely liked that app, and it was easy to be able to get to their customer service because you could chat them really quickly.
Yeah, I feel like that's a problem with some of the apps for sure.
Some of the apps, they're like, they don't even, they have like a bot answering them, or they have no phone numbers, just an email. And you may not get an email back for 2 weeks. So I liked Earnin because I just knew, okay, I can get to people easily. You can borrow every week if you need to. They take it back, they will have you pay it back quickly. So it just is the better turnaround, I guess. And the app is just super easy to use. That's the other thing.
Did you try to borrow money through other means first, or like why did you choose a cash advance versus like a traditional loan?
I didn't, because I knew I didn't need astronomical amounts. I didn't need like $1,000 or anything like that, It's much like, oh, just maybe $100, $50 type of a thing. And that was it. I, didn't think I wanted to take out, a huge lump sum that I would have to pay back. Just like, if I'm gonna pay anything back and be a pretty responsible borrower, just, $100, $50, no bigger than a small amount.
Yeah. What did your finances look like at that point? Were you living like paycheck to paycheck? Did you have savings?
I had savings, not wanting to tap into that because I knew like if I did, I'd be in trouble. And with the job market the way it was then, when I was using it, it was during the pandemic. I didn't do all of the SBA type of things, the loans like a lot of other people, PPP loans and all that. I didn't do any of that. And so I was like, well, let's figure this out because, it at the time thinking we just needed a small little bit, but I felt like I was living paycheck to paycheck, but really like almost like contract to contract, not knowing when the next something was coming. So
did it have anything to do with like credit? Like, did you have bad credit at that point, or was that not it?
And my credits actually was really good. Because like after college, I paid off, most of my student loans and everything, and so my credit was still good, and that's what I was trying to preserve. That too will cause you to want to use those apps if you just don't want to mess up your credit anymore by getting a large loan if you potentially may not be able to pay it back in time.
It's interesting to hear you guys like say your reasonings for using cash advances, because I feel like in their advertisements and stuff, it's always focused on like if you have bad credit, like this is an app for bad credit. And I'm realizing that a lot of people like they don't have bad credit. They're using it because it's like convenient or they need smaller amounts. And
nobody want to go into the bank and ask them for a couple thousand. Like if I'm gonna do that, it's for something major, like buying a car or something. Like if I'm gonna go do that. But no, I did not want to take out $3,000 from the bank. Like for what?
Okay, so it sounds like you're super responsible with these apps. So do you want to talk about like how you use them? If you ever got stuck like in the trap where it's like taking money from your paycheck every time and then you keep borrowing and it's like caught in that cycle. Did you ever get stuck in that? And like how did you
Yeah, so there was one cycle, and it was one time when it was taking a little bit longer for one of my contracts to pay out. And I emailed them like, hey, I need to try to reset the repayment date because it's like it'll allow you to chat in there, but it got to the point where the repayment date was getting ready to hit, and then I was like, well, okay, I'm gonna have to email them, told them like, hey, it's just I'm not gonna be able to do it until maybe 2 weeks from now. I felt like I was trapped because I had to keep. It was just like they kept trying to hit my bank account over and over, and I'm like, and I literally had to email them to get up the ACH, like relinquish.
Which app was this?
Earnin.
Earnin. Okay.
I had to relinquish their control, or they could go in there and just snatch and do whatever they wanted. And so it was just weird. Like after I had gotten a deposit, they tried to take the last two. And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, it's supposed to be one at a time. And I told you to reschedule the other one. So how did you, it just was crazy. And I felt like I was in the cycle for a few weeks because I just kept having to go back to them and be like, hey, just can we fix this? And it was a lot. So cycle of where I got caught in like the repayment cycle during that month and a half, I want to say, it just was like, ugh, and it was tough to get out of. It was very tough.
Did it affect your mental health? Like, how was it emotionally?
Didn't affect my mental health, but it did affect my ability to try to go forward. I was just like, man, I'm trapped in this stuff. Like finances became a headache for me at that point, which is what caused me to want to really just go to the next level.
How did you figure out how to revoke the ACH access? Did somebody tell you, or?
I had to Google. I looked on Google.
So you were just like, how do I stop paying these apps?
Yeah, I had to stop. I had to literally figure out how to stop paying the apps and everything. So it was really rough.
So you just Googled how to revoke the ACH access.
I did. When I got on Google, there was like a couple of instructions where it said email us at such and such. And then it showed someone had posted, I think it was like in their little blog section. It said, email them at such and such. And then it said, put your name in the line. And then just say, it was like a formal statement. I would like to revoke my bank access from you, effective immediately type of a thing. It was very formal, but.
And then was it that simple? Like you just sent the email and then they
did it. But it took a while. It took a few weeks. So it seemed like either there was a process to it, probably had to go through some form of who knows, verification process, something like that, because it was weird how it took so long.
Was this the only app you were using? Did you ever like stack multiple cash advances at once?
I did that one in Albert.
Okay. Did you revoke ACH from them too, or was that less of an issue?
Oh, no, that one was less of an issue because that one's more subscription based. You pay your monthly fee with Albert, and then Albert would say, they would basically allow you to reborrow. And then, once you paid it back or whatever, they would be like, okay. And then you can actually within the app make sure you cancel it if you don't want to do anything else. So it was easier to get out of that one than it was in Earnin. Earnin wanted you stuck with them for life, and we were not doing that.
Do you still use cash advances at all?
I don't anymore.
Would you be open to using them again? Like, do you view them as like being predatory, or do you think they're good tools? Like, what are your thoughts on them?
To be honest, yeah, I would be open to using them again, just for the purpose of just shopping money, just free, fun money. Here and there, maybe for small things, small expenses, or mostly fun though. But yes, I absolutely would.
Yeah. What advice would you give to people who are like starting to get in that cycle? Like how should they avoid that? And if they're in it, what would your advice be?
I would say be responsible in terms of being a borrower. If they offer you a lot, doesn't mean you have to take a lot, the full amount. Be responsible with the payback. And if you can't pay it back, communicate with the company immediately, whether by email, by chat, by whichever avenues they have. I know Albert has text messaging. And so if, you get into the cycles and if you get stuck, find ways to either have repayment dates sent to the company or, and then eat the debt down one by one, app by app. So if you're in, for instance, like 3 or 4 different apps, just focus on one app at a time, make sure you revoke access as I've discussed and, make sure you pay them back, and go from there, but try your best to communicate. And with using these apps, communication is key. And also being responsible because you can either overborrow and not pay attention to the repayment dates. And if you don't, that gets you into a lot of trouble.
That's good advice. So you're saying you can revoke the ACH access and that's just going to give you like more time and then you come back and pay back. No. Okay. That's good advice because I know a lot of people have hangups over revoking the ACH access.
Yeah.
They feel guilty. Like I think a lot of them think that like they're just never going to pay it back. Like they'll just revoke access and be done with it.
Yeah.
So interesting. You can go back in after revoking the access and pay back the money. You just get like more time.